Hey, book crows. I am Thyme, and I will be your host today. And I am joined by my regular co host, Beryl. And today we will be reviewing Raising the Horseman by Serena Valentino. But before we get into it, Beryl, have you gotten any recent books? And what book are you currently reading?
Do textbooks count?
I don't think we're reviewing textbooks, so no. But I mean, you did buy them, so I guess so.
Well, they're currently in the midst of being bought. We're still looking at the cheapest place to get the textbooks. They're not cheap.
God, no, textbooks suck.
Ugh. At least they're fun textbooks. And by fun textbooks, I mean textbooks that actually have to do with what I'm studying.
Yeah, I remember when I was getting my AA, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Because at the time, I was torn between psychology and law because I think being a lawyer would be awesome. But then I was like, I don't want to accidentally piss someone off and, get murdered or whatever. So I didn't. But I took a business law class, and that textbook was $500.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, it was stupid.
No, thank you, please. This is why I'm a film major.
So what book are you currently reading?
Treachery of Swans by A.P. Poranek. Poranek? Poranek?
I don't even know how to pronounce that.
One of these days, we'll get an author whose name we can pronounce, but that day is not today.
One of these days, we'll get a name we think we can pronounce properly, and then they're going to be like, actually, it's pronounced this way?
And please correct us when that day comes.
Yes. If you know how to pronounce words, let us know.
Languages are hard, and we are stupid English speakers.
Even English is hard. Like, English is such a dumb language.
It makes you feel better. You would think that with my last name, which I'm just going to say it is Iverson, you think that with my last name, people would spell it right. But English speakers keep spelling it with an E. I need you to stop and fuck off really fast.
Yeah, I remember when I still had my maiden name, which is Paxton, Paxton. It's a Scottish last name. People, at one point, I gave it to someone because we use our last names for a lot when we're doing like track and field. So my coaches would always call me by my last name. And we went to get food after a track meet, and I gave my last name because no one else is going to have that last name where we live. And they spelled it like Pakistan, which was interesting.
What? What the fuck?
I've never seen it spelled that way in my life. But English is dumb.
English is dumb.
At least we're not French.
I know, a decent chunk of French.
But all those extra vowels,
Oh, it's great because all the extra vowels just make one noise.
But they're so unnecessary. Why?
Vowels are the most interesting part of any language because as languages evolve, you tend to get less vowel sounds and you start spelling less of the actual vowels, which is why Arabic, they don't use vowels when writing. And also why, if you look at the original verses of the Bible, there's no vowels in the words either. They write all consonants. Again, just like Arabic.
That is interesting.
It is, and in English and French and all of them, we see the vowels get shortened and shortened until they're starting to go away.
That's true.
But French is an interesting language trying to hold on to their vowels and not their consonants. If you were to recreate French 1,000 years ago, there'd be a lot less silent letters, but they'd be spelled the same.
Yeah, that's a lot. Anyway. Okay. Anyway, cut to the next scene.
Cut to the next scene. We don't want to talk about the French for too long because fuck the French half the time. Actually, shout out to France for doing what they're doing right now. I love to see what they're doing.
That, and I think it's in Nepal.
Yeah.
They burnt down the capital.
Shout out to Nepal and Indonesia and France right now. You guys are doing a good job.
I will say, the cutest thing happened when I went to Europe was I saw this adorable lesbian couple in France, and they had cute little berets and everything. It was the most adorable thing I'd ever seen. So I'm actually going to give my rating of this book early the most important thing to keep in mind with this book is this book perfectly encapsulates the phrase gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss so well. And you'll see why when I get into my synopsis. But I gave this book, for me, it's between a 4.5 and a 5-star because this is the second time I've read it. I will say, having the audio narration, because I read part of it and then the work week happened, so the rest of it was on audiobook. They should have chosen a different narrator, but there were some things that were interesting with the audiobook that you wouldn't get while reading it, and that's the fact of, since this is a modern sequel / retelling of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, you do have more modern elements in it. So it's really weird to be listening to an audiobook and hearing emojis being used because you get text conversations.
Me, whenever I'm watching modern Nancy Drew stuff.
So that's one of the few things where I'm like, wow, that took me out of it a little bit because you hear like heart emoji. I'm like, okay. I like this book a lot. So this is a modern retelling, like I said. It bounces between the original Katrina Von Tassel via her diary and Kat Van Tassel, whose full name is Katrina Von Tassel, but she goes by Kat. And that is because she is a 200-year separated descendant of the original Katrina Von Tassel. In Katrina's original will or something, that I don't know. Basically, before Katrina died, she was like, yeah, people can inherit my estate as long as they are named Katrina Von Tassel. They have to keep the last name and everything. So you have 200 years of Katrina Von Tassels, basically.
All right.
So her mom is also named Katrina, but she goes by Trina. So we have Kat and we have Katrina. Those are our main characters. And we begin with an awesome prologue that sets up the vibe of the book really well. And it shows that this is keeping the original vibe of the original telling. It even actually has some tie-ins and quotes for the original that come from the very first chapter of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And then after the prologue, we start with Kat coming home on the longest twilight, which is a day that they have to honor the original Katrina Von Tassel. And she missed the ceremony for her however many great-grandmother's death, and her mom upset. She's like, well, I lost track of time while reading under the oldest oak tree. And her mom's like, well, go upstairs and, change. And then, because we have dinner after this, they do a dinner and stuff like that after the ceremony of laying flowers and things like that on the grave. And her mom's also pissed because she's like, you're the current reigning Katrina. You have a legacy to uphold, ma'am. And she sees it as very disrespectful. Which, fair, I guess. I mean, I feel that.
Traditional families and all that jazz.
Yeah, and so the other thing you find out is Kat does not believe the legends of Sleepy Hollow and the ghost stories. She thinks it's all outdated and ridiculous and nonsense. So she's like, why do we even have to do all this stuff? And she starts an argument with her parents at dinner because her parents are like, well, soon you're gonna get married to your boyfriend Blake and you're gonna inherit and you need to continue all of these traditions. Her parents are a little outdated in their ideas a little bit. It is pretty obvious. And she's like, I'm only 18. I haven't even graduated high school. I don't even know if I want to get married. And I'm like, fair.
Yeah, dude. What the fuck? They haven't upgraded to modern times at all.
She actually even opens the curtains at one point, which horrifies her mother, because the big thing is you have the curtains shut on the longest twilight. Because I guess like Passover, you put Katrina's favorite flowers above your door so the headless horseman doesn't come into your house and kill you or whatever. All this other stuff. It's like Sleepy Hollow Horseman Passover. And her mom's horrified. She's like, Katrina! And Katrina's like, Mom! And then and so she storms off upstairs. She angry. And then her mom is like, you know what? I'm gonna give you the original Katrina's diary. How this thing lived 200 years, I want to know. Where did they keep this? Was it kept in like an old wooden trunk? Is that what it was? Is that what it was kept in? Because books that are 200 years old,
they don't last.
No, I have a book from like 18 something, and it is rough.
It's a magic spell placed on the book and all that jazz.
Honestly, it's Sleepy Hollow. It could be. So Kat's mom gives her Katrina's diary. She also overhears her parents talking about how her dad's like, I see too much of the original Katrina in her, and he's worried about that.
How old is her dad?
I don't know. It does not say how old anyone is but Kat.
Like, he sees the original Katrina. You didn't know the original Katrina, you dumbass. You're an...
I mean, technically they know the legend and they have the diary, so I guess they do.
I guess, okay, sure.
And so the mom gives her the diary. She's like, I want you to read this, because she believes it'll make Kat understand not only her legacy, but also respect the traditions and the legends of Sleepy Hollow more. So then we go to Katrina's perspective. And normally I hate switching perspectives, but they do it really well here, because you have it only from Kat's perspective and Katrina's, with a little bit of, like, you get a section where it's of Brahms and you get Ichabod's, but it's only for very key moments that work really, really well. So in Katrina's perspective, it's a bit similar to Kat. Her mom is upset. She's come home right before dark because she was reading a lot. She lost track of time. Normally I would hate that they're, updating a bunch of stuff. Like, I hate when they're like, oh, we need to modernize Snow White to make her this really strong character. It's Snow White, my dudes. Leave her alone. But in this case, I really like it, because the original Sleepy Hollow was from Ichabod's perspective. And let's be honest, Ichabod was a dick.
Yeah.
He did not respect women at all. So he just saw Katrina as this prize to be won so he could get his riches. He didn't see her as an actual human being. He didn't respect or value anything she liked. So him just seeing her as, oh, this beautiful vixen I can seduce to get money, makes sense from his perspective. But this is from Katrina's perspective. And at this point, Katrina's parents are expecting her to marry Brahm. Katrina's like, I don't like that my life is being dictated for me, and everyone is assuming I'm going to stay in Sleepy Hollow and marry Brahm.
Question, how do you spell Brahm's name?
B-R-O-M is how they spell it.
Interesting choice of a name. Continue.
His full name is Abraham.
Okay. That makes it make sense.
Yeah, Abraham von Brunt, I think is what it was.
Of course it is.
Yeah, but everyone just calls him Brahm.
Interesting.
She actually runs into Brahm on her way home. They get into a little bit of a disagreement in the fact of, he's obviously been out all night with the Sleepy Hollow boys. He's showing off a bit for his bros, and he mentions, oh, well, once we get married, you're not going to have time to read. Being a little bit of a dick. She gets pissed, rightfully so, and she notes that he feels really horrible for what he said. She can tell he does, but she's like, no, shut the hell up, go away. And so then we go back to Kat. Kat, she has missed messages from her boyfriend Blake, and he is pissed at her because she lost track of time, and she's not at the cemetery where she promised to meet him. And she's like, well, I just promised my mom I would not, go out after dark because she's scared of the Horseman. And he is a dick. And he guilt trips her into going anyway, because he tells her, well, you promised me you would be here. You promised me you would help me and my bros, summon the ghost of your great, however many great grandmothers. She's like, I don't remember saying that. This is where we get some distinction here. So Blake is obviously set up to, in a way, give you a little 180. It's supposed to be. It's really obvious it's not, if you know the original tale of Sleepy Hollow. But Blake is supposed to, if you're reading this for the first time, you don't know anything about Sleepy Hollow, he's supposed to kind of be seen as Brahm in the fact of he's with Katrina, he hangs out with the Sleepy Hollow boys. But the main difference, and I'm going to say this early, because this is a huge PSA, is Blake is very obviously manipulative and abusive to Kat. He gaslights her constantly. He is a horrible person. And he is just with her for status and for fame. And essentially, this whole book is a big PSA of, yeah, if you in this type of relationship, get out. Which is, I respect, that's a really important thing to do, because there is a point where, and this is very much, you can tell that's what Kat's mental state is she is just continuing to be complicit because that she's been with this guy for so long. She just doesn't know what to do anymore. She actually comments that she had tried to break up with him before, and he guilted her into staying with him.
Gross.
The difference is, Brahm is very much in love with Katrina. He does not mean to hurt her in any way, and it's very obvious that's how he is. He's just a jock.
A bad description of a jock, because a lot of jocks are actually very nice nowadays.
One of the big differences is you can tell that Brahm sort of has that complacency in he knows that his life is laid out for him. You actually get a section where he is thinking about how he's very much upset that he and Katrina have grown apart since he started working for Katrina's dad. He wants to fix it. He wants to connect again. He just doesn't have the words to do so. That is the big difference there. Brahm, you can tell, is just this guy who doesn't know how to fix something. And occasionally, when he's around his friends, he kind of just gets to a bit of a showy stage. But he learns his lesson. And that's a big deal. And I have the same thing whenever I talk to anyone about Harry Potter. James grows the fuck up. Snape does not. I'm sorry. If you're a Snape lover, get out.
Snape never got redeemed. You just want him to be redeemed because I don't know why, actually.
Alan Rickman.
Alan
Rickman.
Yeah.
So Kat goes to the cemetery, and then she runs into the big third player in this version. She runs into Isadora Crow.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Isadora, you're not even hiding it. Okay.
No. There's supposed to be a twist, but if you know Sleepy Hollow, you can tell that this is supposed to be, and I'm putting that in quotes, this is a descendant of Ichabod. Now, she is not the direct descendant. He's actually her great however many uncle, but she is a Crane. They changed their last name because they knew that the Crane name had a stigma. So one of the big things is, and this is where we get the gatekeep, the Sleepy Hollow boys and everyone in Sleepy Hollow instantaneously hates her because she's an outsider. They don't even know that she's a Crane. You actually have this reveal where Kat's mom reveals it, and Blake is literally like, wait, she's a Crane? And the helper that stays at their house literally looks at him and goes, yes, dear, keep up. And it's hilarious. But yeah, she's supposed to be the Ichabod character. In actuality, she's more the Brahm character in this retelling. And honestly, even in the original, Ichabod's an asshole. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She meets Isadora. There's this clear connection, this clear spark between them. And of course, Isadora has dimples, naturally.
Of course. We talked about the dimples before, and we're once again like, oh my god, not the dimples. Way to tell if somebody's gonna be a hot character is dimples.
Yes. And Isadora actually doesn't originally know that this is Katrina because Kat does not look like the rest of the Katrinas. Most of the Katrinas are these buxom blondes. That's literally how to describe it. Curvy blonde. And Katrina takes after her father. She's got dark hair. She's very stick-like, that sort of thing. And so they go over to where Blake and his friends are, and Kat's thinking about how they clearly don't believe in the ghost stories of Sleepy Hollow, because they're disrespectful as hell. There's solo cups everywhere. They're playing horrid music in the middle of a cemetery at night. And Blake gaslights Kat into taking part in a summoning ritual, summoning the first Katrina. The second Kat says the words and everything, the Horseman appears.
Of course.
Yeah, naturally. Blake and his friends run off. And Kat, originally, because she doesn't believe in the ghosts and whatever, Isadora's freaking out. She's like, it's the Horseman, we need to go. Kat is like, no, it's just a regular horse. It's not going to hurt us. So she actually is trying to talk to this horse, and then the horse runs off. After, rearing up, it runs off. And she sees on the horse, originally she couldn't see the rider. She sees on the horse who she believes is a woman.
Uh-huh.
We get that distinction. And then Isadora's like, Kat, you're a dumbass. You and your friends are messing with dark magic you don't understand. And Kat gets upset about that for being called out. Partially because she was gaslit into it, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Kat walks her home and continues reading the diary. And this is when we get into where Katrina meets Ichabod. And she's clearly taken with him because she sees him as worldly and smart. And, he knows the author of one of the books she's reading. And her father comes home after she gets home and stuff. And he is like, yeah, I met him on the road. I didn't like him. Because the dad also can tell that, Katrina's fascinated with this guy. And he's like, she's promised to Brahm. I don't like this. And her mom's like, it's just a passing fancy. It's whatever. And she's like, and if it isn't, you were gonna have to, get used to a very different son-in-law, being very supportive. Stupidly so, but, at least she's supportive. And this is when we get the first of many things that kind of bug me in this. It's very mild, but Kat realizes how much her life is mirroring Katrina's, and it sort of gives her an uneasy feeling. The side note is, I don't like how often they bring up how much Kat's life mirrors Katrina's, because it feels like they're trying to hammer the message in.
You only need to do it once or twice.
Yeah, they do it a couple times, and the reader's obviously going to get it as they're reading. You don't need to, like, put it specifically in words. So then she's like, oh gosh, it's 2 a.m. Kat has a text from Isadora. I should have mentioned, we're back to Kat's perspective. She sees just a text from Isadora. It's 2 a.m. They agree to meet at the coffee shop the next day to read the diary together. I'm just going to skip to the next day because nothing valuable happens in between them deciding to meet at the coffee shop and meeting at the coffee shop. They start reading Katrina's diary. This is the night of the dinner that, Katrina's mom invites Ichabod to. And the dad invited Brom.
Oh, great.
Which causes some tension. Her dad and Brom are trying to, make fun of Ichabod, essentially show that he's not that great. But the problem is Ichabod's wording in circles around them, and he's clearly trying to also, seduce Katrina. And you get a side note of her thinking of, she's wondering if the feelings she has for Ichabod are just because he's putting in effort to try and win her over, whereas Brom doesn't put effort in.
100%. That makes a massive difference for people.
Yeah, and I feel like, stuff like that is part of why affairs happen. You get a husband who's just like, oh, we're married, I don't have to try anymore. And then, some human comes along and it's like, ah, yes, what a wonderful, beautiful woman you are. Oh, you're interested in Voltaire? I am interested in Voltaire. Whatever.
I love using Voltaire as the example. Oh.
That's what they used in the book.
Of course, it's what they use in the book. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's very clear how much her dad and Brom's lack of worldliness and knowledge makes Ichabod seem superior in Katrina's eyes. We cut back to Kat in the coffee shop, and she happens to look up and see what appears to be a very angry woman behind Blake as he's waiting in line at the coffee shop. But then she, blinks and rubs her eyes because she's like, oh, my eyes are tired from reading, and the woman's gone. And it happens to resemble a woman she saw earlier in the book when she was at the cemetery. So Blake comes over, and he's obviously pissed Isadora's there. He looks at the diary very uneasily, which Kat notices. And so when Isadora leaves and Blake's still staring at the diary, she actually puts it in her bag, and then he hyper fixates on the bag while they're talking. Blake's face is horribly scratched up, and he says it's because the Horseman ran him off the road into a ravine. And Kat's like, no, the Horseman's not real. No, he didn't. You're lying. They keep talking, and she actually is like, no, you know what? I don't actually want to be with you anymore. And he gets pissed about that, and she's like, no, because, yeah, and she comes up in her head with different reasons as to why. She's like, he's not going to accept any of those. So I'm just going to say, we're just gone in different directions.
Oh, sweetie.
And he tries to gaslight her a little bit more and stuff like that. As a side note, if anyone makes you feel the way she describes in this book, makes you feel small and inferior, you deserve better than that. And that's all I'm going to say on that note. We go back to Katrina. They're in the after of dinner, they're sitting, they're enjoying coffee or tea or whatever they enjoy back in those days. They happen to bring up the Harvest Festival. She mentions she wants to dress up as a lady pirate because she thinks they're fascinating. Her dad and Brom bring up the story of the Horseman, and they tell the story and they scare Ichabod with it. And when they go to leave, Brom leaves first to go home, and then Ichabod does. And this is when we get one of the few perspectives from someone other than Kat and Katrina. We get Brom's perspective. Like I was saying earlier, he's thinking about how upset he is that him and Katrina have grown apart, how he doesn't know how to fix it, but he wants to, but he doesn't know how to put it into words why they're not as connected as they used to be, because they used to read together all the time. They used to be really close. And this is when Brom encounters the Horseman.
Oh.
He, at first, just hears the hooves, so he runs to the oldest oak, since he knows it's the Horseman. And he's trying to, kind of hide from the Horseman in this oak. He hears a noise, and he realizes the oldest oak has a heartbeat, and it starts pouring blood out of it. So that freaks him out even more. And then he gets caught in the branches of the tree. Like, it literally is like the tree grabbed him. And the horseman has shown up at this point. And the horseman's like rearing up, ready to attack him. And Brom's able to escape at the last minute and run home. We cut back to Kat, sadly. And this is when she starts to believe the stories. She believes the horseman's real at this point. She even texts Isadora that. And they're texting for a bit, and that's when we get the weird emojis thing. And they agree to meet at the oldest oak that was literally just described. It's actually, they make a big deal out of it in the prologue and stuff. It's this landmark. She goes downstairs, and her mom's helper is there. She's actually been in the helping the family for years. There's actually a character in Katrina's time that's very similar. The name in that time is Madeline, and this helper's name is Maddie. She talks to Maddie for a bit, and Maddie is very clearly clairvoyant. She's able to know things about Kat that Kat hasn't told her. Maddie tells her that she talks to Katrina's ghost at the oldest oak. At this point, her mom comes home, and she tells Maddie and her mom she's meeting a new friend. And the new friend is Isadora Crow. And they start weirding out, and she's like, what's going on? Her mom is like, I want you to bring this girl over for dinner tonight. And Kat's like, okay, weird.
Weird indeed. Mom, what are you doing?
Yeah. She's like, I just don't trust new people in Sleepy Hollow. That's clearly what this is. And in the back of your mind as you're reading this, you're like, nuh-uh, we know. Mm-hmm. We know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. We do.
So Kat goes to meet Isadora, and Isadora almost kisses Kat, and she doesn't, and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just assumed that you liked me that way, and I can't believe I tried to do that when you have a boyfriend. And Kat's like, no, you're not wrong, and actually I broke up with Blake. And she starts being a little insecure about how she let Blake treat her that for so long. She even says, you probably think I'm stupid for staying with him. And Isadora is like, no, you're not stupid. You have nothing to be ashamed of. He's the one who was wrong. And it's really clear at this point that Isadora wants to tell Kat something, but she's holding it back. Like, she actually gets teary-eyed and things like that. And then they hear footsteps on the other side of the tree. And when they go to see who it is, the person's run off. But they see an unmarked grave on the other side of the tree. And it's got dried candle wax and summoning symbols on it. Kat, at this point, actually had mentioned to Isadora that she used to talk with a ghost of a woman. And Blake used to talk with the woman too. At some point, Blake gaslit Kat into being like, no, that was never a thing. And eventually Kat stopped being able to see this ghost. But she's pretty sure she's seen this person again. And we go back to Brom. And Brom tells Katrina what happened. He's like, the headless horseman almost killed me. He's clearly not even changed his clothes from last night. That is how freaked out this boy was. And Katrina's thinking to herself, like, he is acting a lot like his older self. And she's thinking about how much she does love him and used to love him. How, they used to be connected. And at this point, she tells Brom she doesn't want to marry him anymore. And Brom takes it like a champ. He's like, okay. He's like, it's clear it's because of Ichabod, who happens to show up. Like the motherfucker he is. Mm-hmm. He's very clearly smug and pleased that Brom is upset. He clearly knows why. He actually gets angry with Katrina because she's watching Brom walk away. She's staring at the spot he used to be at. And he's like, don't tell me you have feelings for him. She's like, of course I do. And he gets really angry about it. And she actually notes that he doesn't seem like himself. But, she tells him, reassures Ichabod, and he's like, oh, well, I intend to win your heart, and ugh. So then Ichabod and Katrina begin to meet at the oldest oak, like she used to do with Brom all the time. Katrina tells Ichabod she wants to be a writer, which is something she's never told anyone. She wants to chronicle the ghosts and tales of Sleepy Hollow, including the Horseman. And Ichabod's like, and you're going to name it The Adventures of Ichabod Crane, right? And she gets, like, confused. She's like, no, why would I do that? And he's like, oh, don't you remember, my dear Featherhead, that I told you that I wanted to write about my adventures coming here and the ghosts and stuff like that. And she's like, number one, don't call me a Featherhead.
Good.
And then she's like, I don't remember telling you that. He's like, oh, no, I remember this. But he starts to go into, like, very detailed things about the day that she told him this. And she's like, I don't remember telling you that. And he actually comments like, oh, that's okay. You'll just have to find something else to write about.
The fuck? The fuck does this man think he is?
Yeah. So then we cut back to Kat, who is frustrated because she's like, Ichabod was clearly gaslighting her. Like, especially now that, she's realized how Blake was treating her. She's really upset on behalf of Katrina. And they hear a voice from inside the tree, from the oldest oak. And the ghost in the tree, at first they're not sure, but then the tree starts to bleed buckets of blood. And Isadora's like, we need to go. We need to get the fuck out. But Kat sees a locket in the blood, and she picks it up. She realizes that it was Katrina's. The ghost in the tree starts talking to them and is like, Katrina wanted you to have this locket. You need to finish, learning our story. And the tree warns them about someone that is wanting to hurt them. And they happen to be on their way there. He's like, I can't, keep talking to you. You need to go. He is coming. And who should show up but Blake?
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, no shit.
Hyperfixation on the book much, my dude?
Yeah, and at this point, Kat and Isadora are just covered in blood from this tree, and Kat has a horrid migraine. So Blake and Isadora, they go to Kat's home, because, they were supposed to meet for dinner and stuff. Kat's mom takes her upstairs. I was like, what the fuck happened? Why are you covered in blood? What the shit? Kat's laying down to rest in her room, and Kat's mom and Maddie are sitting across from Isadora, and they're like, you're gonna tell me what happened. So Isadora does. Upon, hearing that the tree is like, oh yeah, we're pretty sure, the tree tried to warn us about Blake. Blake's like, I would never, and starts trying to gaslight Kat's mom. And at this point, it's clear Maddie and Kat's mom hate Isadora. They reveal, who she is. They're like, you think we wouldn't know? Kat's mom literally says, I'm not going to let you ruin Kat's life like your uncle did to the original. Isadora is a ballsy teenager. She's like, if anyone's standing in Kat's way, it's you.
Hell yeah.
Way to go. I would not be that brave. And she's really like, do you know that your daughter wants to be a writer? She wants to go to college. She's terrified of being stuck here. I wouldn't blame her for never wanting to speak to me again because, I've been keeping who I am from her. And at this point, Kat actually has made it downstairs, despite her horrid migraine. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to see you or Blake ever again. I don't ever want to talk to you again. As they're leaving, she literally tells them, beware the Horseman.
Damn.
That's how pissed she is. So it's a couple days later, and, she's told her parents everything that's been happening. To her parents' credit, they are very supportive. They're actually like, I wish you had told me how Blake was treating you sooner. Her dad is there I wanted to bash this guy's head in. Fair.
Good father, in that sense. Not in all the senses.
We love supportive parents.
Absolutely.
And her dad's like, you should, forgive Isadora for not telling you. She was clearly scared who she is coming into this town. It's understandable. Also, it's clear you have feelings for her. And I'm like, guy, it's been a week. You need to chill.
They are teenagers.
They are teenagers. I mean, I remember when I met my husband, I happened to be an idiot and get back into a relationship with someone I shouldn't have gone into. But, it was very clear there was something there. He even comments he probably didn't realize it at the time, but that was probably when, it started, was at that point. So fair. I mean, it can happen quickly, but the logic part of my brain is it's been a week.
Yeah. Love at first sight does happen. It's just rare.
Yeah, it does. And, Kat, to her credit, and it's so valid, she comments on how she doesn't want to be someone's girlfriend for a while. She wants to just be her own person, which is valid. I mean, you don't get to discover who you are until you haven't been in a relationship for a while, and sometimes you evolve and grow in a relationship too. I would not be who I am today without being with my husband. Mm-hmm. So then she goes back to school. She ends up sitting in the library. She's like, I want to write a paper about the history of Sleepy Hollow for my final from Katrina's perspective. So she wants to, continue reading the diary. There's a few things I'm skipping because I don't see the point in talking about them. She starts reading the diary, and we're at the point where Katrina gets told this later, and she chronicles it later, obviously. But Ichabod is asking her dad for permission to ask Katrina to marry him. And he reveals he does not intend to travel with Katrina. He intends to stay in Sleepy Hollow, take care of the property and stuff. And her dad is like, okay, but you gotta tell her that. You gotta make your intentions clear. Kat hears the voice of Katrina and sees her across the library, telling her, you know, you need to trust Isadora, you need to go talk to her. So she goes to, and Katrina leads her to the oldest oak where Isadora is crying because she's upset. And they make up, and they kiss, and Blake shows up, and he be's a homophobic dick.
Just one more reason to hate him.
Yeah. Back with Katrina, it's the Harvest Ball. I know that seems really, like, sudden cut. I had, like, 16 pages of notes because I wrote it so detailed. But I'm summarizing, okay? I'm trying to make this shorter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we're at the Harvest Ball. Katrina sees Brom at the Harvest Ball, and she starts to feel a bit guilty because she's like, I haven't been talking to him since I told him I didn't want to marry him. It's been a couple weeks since then. And she feels bad for turning on him so quickly and just starting to be with Ichabod so quickly. And she starts to think about how unright it feels that she hasn't been able to talk to him in weeks. Katrina's mom shows up, and they're chit-chatting, and she accidentally spoils the secret that Ichabod is going to propose to her that night. Katrina isn't happy learning this because she feels like once again her life is just being planned out for her, and Ichabod didn't even like hint at it or anything, and she feels this sense of dread. So then she goes out, she's joining the party, people watching, and she sees Brom playing with the children in the cemetery, and she actually begins to sort of imagine how life could have been if she was with him, and you know, imagines him playing with their own children and stuff like that. She begins to actually think about what would happen if she left Sleepy Hollow, how much it would be different, and she starts to see what her legacy is in Sleepy Hollow. And at this point, Ichabod's with her. And Brom approaches them, and he compliments her costume. He's like, you're that one lady pirate that you were talking about, right? And he's like, I actually read a few books about lady pirates, and there's a lot more than I thought there would be. And Ichabod is like, I didn't think you'd be such an avid reader, Brom. You know, clearly like, you know, I think you're a bumpkin.
Ugh.
And Brom's like, well, I've had a lot more time after work recently. Katrina's like, oh, I didn't realize how much time Brom didn't have to do things like reading like he used to. Because, you know, her dad's been preparing Brom to take over. Like, that's all he's been doing. And so she starts to feel bad for judging him so much on that. And so they end up going inside and stuff. And she accidentally outs what happened to Brom while they, you know, chatting with Ichabod. She's chastising Ichabod for essentially bullying Brom at this point and rubbing it in his face. She starts to think about how annoyed Ichabod's been making her and how she's not liking this smug, superior version of himself he's showing. So she's like, let me go get some drinks for us. So she walks off. We get a bit of a perspective change. It comments on how, you know, she hears about what officially happened later. And so while in the sitting room by themselves, Ichabod, you know, sits in her dad's chair, and Brom's like, you shouldn't be doing that. He's like, oh, well, I'm just trying it on for size. And they start talking. Ichabod starts bragging to Brom about how easy it was to just lie and win her over by pretending to like the things she likes and promising all these things that she wants while not intending to actually do them. Brom is like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you're a horrible person. What the hell? And he's like, look, I know I screwed up, but if I could be with her, I would travel the world. I would leave Sleepy Hollow if that's what she actually wanted. So Brom actually grabs Ichabod's arm and starts leading him towards her dad. He's like, you're going to tell her dad what you've been actually up to. And Ichabod starts trying to fight Brom. He's like, no, I'm not. He takes a swing, and it eventually escalates. Brom punches him in the nose.
Let's go, Brom.
Brom gets kicked out of the party and stuff like that. But what they don't know is Katrina overheard everything. So she runs upstairs, and she's upset after everyone starts to leave, Ichabod, goes to leave, and they're like, what happened? And he starts trying to gaslight the parents into like, oh, it was all Brom. He said something unkind about our Katrina, and her parents aren't buying it. He goes to leave, he's on his horse, and he locks eyes with Katrina, who's on the balcony in her room. It's obvious he is uneased by this. And she just stares down at him. And before she, walks back into her room off the balcony, she tells him to beware the Horseman. Because, he's leaving in the middle of the fucking night.
Yeah, absolutely. And
then we get Ichabod's perspective. And he's thinking about how it's all over. It's clear. Katrina knows what's up. Her parents aren't going to believe it. All this other stuff. It's going to come out what happened. Then he encounters the Horseman. Obviously. We got to get that cinematic moment. And as he crosses the bridge, he gets this feeling the same feeling he had when he looked up at Katrina on her balcony, right before Flaming Pumpkin is thrown at him. So then we go back to Kat, and Kat is like, how did Katrina know what happened to Ichabod? And what happened to him after he left? And Isidore's like, oh, well, he married, had a bunch of kids, but no one knows where he's buried. So then Katrina appears, and she's like, yeah, no, I was the one who scared off Ichabod. I was the Horseman. However, the Horseman is real. The one who Brom encountered is the real Horseman.
Okay, all right. We love a gaslight gatekeep girl boss Katrina.
Yeah. She's like, Kat, I know what you're thinking. You're scared you're going to be stuck here like me, but I stayed in Sleepy Hollow by choice. I wanted to stay. She actually says the second she heard what Brom said, that he would leave if that's what she wanted, that she wanted to stay. But she encourages Kat. She's like, go follow your dream. Go to college. For all I know, you'll come back here and you'll tell me your stories later. But there's a big problem right now. Okay, you see, Blake's actually been the one keeping me from you. That's why you couldn't see me for years. And he's trapped me and the Horseman in the old oak. And he's about to banish us into the darkness.
Bruh, what is Blake's problem?
So then the ghost of Katrina just starts screaming in pain. They get flashes of the tree and stuff like that. And I don't know how this happens. But, whatever. Plot convenience. Katrina accidentally teleports them to the grove. And they see Blake is just angrily taking an axe to this tree, despite the fact that every time he tries to chop into this tree, he gets pushed back by blood. But he's just going. And they're like, what is going on? And it turns out he's possessed by Ichabod.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Also, Ichabod forgot about tree laws, I guess.
I forgot about tree laws.
Tree laws. You don't fuck with tree law, my dude. That's expensive.
And Kat's like, has he been possessed this whole time? And Katrina's like, no, he was a terrible person, but he decided to align himself with Ichabod to get revenge because, he, in Blake's mind, Katrina's been poisoning Kat's mind against him. And you actually hear him say, as Ichabod, that he knew Katrina was the Horseman the whole damn time, and he pissed. So then Katrina's like, Kat, you have to save us. Only you can do this. You know what to do. And she's like, no, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. What are you talking about? So then Blake turns and sees Kat and Isadora and just starts charging at them with the axe. And Isadora's like, no, you know what to do. Say the words. I'm like, what words are we saying here? But then she, invokes her Katrina powers or something. She's like, I summon the ghosts of Sleepy Hollow and I release Katrina Von Trapp and the Horseman, whatever. Von Tassel, not Von Trapp. That's a different movie. So then the ghosts of Sleepy Hollow come on in. Katrina and the Horseman come out of the fucking tree on the same horse. The Horseman scoops up Blake and just takes Blake wherever the hell ghosts go. Blake's never seen again. They kill Blake.
Hell yeah, Blake deserved to die. It's okay. He's a child. I shouldn't say that. But also he's fictional, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Bro got his comeuppance, let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we get the epilogue, and the Horseman's like, thank you, Kat, you awoke me just like the old Katrina did by, reading under the oak and, telling me all of your desires and stuff. And when I felt the heartbreak, I felt possessed. Not possessed, but, I wanted to protect them, and I vowed to protect all Katrinas. Because I saw Katrina dressed as me, giving Ichabod his comeuppance. I was going to do it, but then I saw her and I'm like, nah, she's got this.
I love this guy.
He's like, and that's when I fell in love with Katrina Von Tassel. The ghosts are like purifying Sleepy Hollow of all of the evilness from Ichabod and Blake, and then they're gonna rest for a while. He goes back to the Oak. And then the ghosts aren't seen for a while, and then they reappear. And the Ichabod Crane High gets renamed to Katrina Von Tassel High, and everyone lives happily ever after.
Why did they name it Ichabod High in the first place?
I don't know. That's one of the things that she comments on. She's like, why did we name this after a guy we hate?
Yeah, what the fuck? What?
Like I said, it's a really good book. The one question I have is, who buried Ichabod in that unmarked grave? Because it's really clear that that's supposed to be his grave. That's where Blake's, like, summon. Who buried Ichabod? Did they kill him?
Christina? No, the Horseman. The Horseman fell in love with Christina and buried Ichabod.
Because they say, oh yeah, he went off and he had kids and then no one knows where he's buried. But it's really clear he got buried there. Who the fuck buried Ichabod?
After he died, the Horseman went out and grabbed his body and reburied him. Reburied, because he was already buried.
The Horseman's like, no, motherfucker, I'm keeping an eye on you.
Absolutely, this ghost's not getting away.
That's like the main plot hole, is who buried Ichabod, because it's really clear. They're like, yeah, this is a random grave. Why didn't I notice this before? There's also some callbacks to the original Disney movie, because this is a Disney book. For example, the the principal, the headmaster at the school is named Toad.
Of course.
And they have, callbacks to the original book as well. Like I said, the only issue I really had was they hammer it in how much she's reliving Katrina's life. And I'm like, you need to trust that the reader's going to pick up on that.
The mouse does not want people to have brain cells. The mouse wants to assume that nobody has brain cells, because if they assume nobody has brain cells, then that just makes their life easier, doesn't it? Go watch Wish, apparently. Don't go watch Wish. Wish, no, don't do it.
Justice for Magnifico.
Justice for Magnifico.
My main takeaways after reading this book is definitely, this is a great book to read for young adults. Not just because it has good themes and elements, and, it's a spooky, cozy tale to read in October, but because it very well done showcases what it can be like to be in a toxic, abusive relationship with someone. Anyone who reads this and recognizes what they're going through in Kat, they're going to see that and they're going to realize it doesn't need to be this way, especially for young adults. Depending on how they're raised, they're not going to know. Mm-hmm. And that was one thing that I felt like they did really well. This actually made me want Disney, or just someone else that's really good at making movies, to remake Sleepy Hollow in a way. Because I would love for them to have a Sleepy Hollow movie based on Katrina's perspective. I remember briefly watching it, but I don't remember how the plot goes in the Johnny Depp remake. I don't remember if that one's good or not.
It's a Tim Burton thing. It's gonna be messy. Because Tim Burton, it's one of the ways Tim Burton got his foot in the door as becoming who he is now today. And it was not as good as people remember it to be. I'll say that. It's not bad. It's a pretty decent film, but it's not as good as people remember it to be.
Yeah. I mean, even as a kid, my favorite movie to watch around Halloween was the original Mr. Toad and Ichabod Crane. Mind you, I just wanted to get through Mr. Toad so I could get to Ichabod Crane. But it was one of my favorite stories to watch and to listen to. And seeing it done in a way that, while you get some of the beats of the original by reading Katrina's diary entries, basically getting her perspective, it doesn't feel like it's just rehashing something. You don't get that Disney remake feeling in this book. You also don't get the feeling that they're going in a direction that goes against the story either, with the more modern parts. Because I've read almost every Twisted Tale book, and there are some where you feel like, and this is true with a lot of the Disney remakes too, you feel like they didn't understand what made the original so charming and so likable.
It's almost as though they're a little bit of a cash grab, knowing that people desire more of that feeling without understanding what created the feeling in the first place. Because when you're making something, you don't necessarily know what the people are actually going to snap onto, what the audience that you have written for is actually going to think of the story. There's a reason why the death of the author is such an important thing. As once it's out there, it's no longer yours, it's the audience's. And Disney doesn't understand that. I don't even think Walt Disney. No, Walt Disney had a better idea of it, but
For all of his faults, Walt did make really great movies. Some of his shorts, like, let's be honest, Walt was a bit of a racist. There was a lot of blackface.
absolutely.
When he started out, and even when he continued, even when he got more into the capitalistic things and started doing, Disneyland and things like that, he still had a lot of passion behind it. Like, one of my favorite rides, and it's a very, very much you hate it or you love it ride. One of my favorites is It's a Small World. One of the big things about that is he had to fight to get that. Like, his crew was like, originally, his head producer guy, when they got the call, they're like, no, we can't do it. They hung up. And he happened to be in an elevator with the person who was doing the World's Fair that year. I was like, oh, yeah, it's sad. You can't do that. He's like, no, we're going to do it. Because he heard kids, ride, happiness. And that was his big thing. He wanted to make stories that could change the world, could make kids happy. Because that's all he wanted to do. He wanted to bring happiness and joy into the world. And his way of doing it was through animation. And he did it really, really well. He had a lot of passion behind it. And I feel like that's the big thing is the person who wrote this book, she also did the Villain series. I haven't read it yet. It's on my to-be bought list.
Mood.
She's a great writer. She knew the story. She knew the vibe of Sleepy Hollow. I think she did a really great job. You got anything?
Honestly, it's a really neatly wrapped up story with only one notable plot hole.
Yeah. That is my one thing.
And it makes me want to go back and read, because I've only ever seen Sleepy Hollow. I haven't actually read Sleepy Hollow.
One of the really good ways to listen to Sleepy Hollow is I have an Audible version of it, and I think it's a famous actor that does the narration. I don't remember who it is.
Is it Benedict Cumberbatch? Can he pronounce penguin?
It's not... It is not Benedict Cumberbatch.
No penguin shenanigans this time. Okay.
Sadly, no. Side note, Audible has a really great rendition of Dracula.
Ooh.
And I'm pissed that you can only get it by having Audible Premium.
Gross.
Fuck you, Audible.
God damn it, Audible. God damn it, Amazon.
Yeah. On a side note, look at that artwork on that cover.
Hey, that's an author we can pronounce the name of. What was the joke I did earlier? Okay. Anyways, it is a gorgeous cover.
With the hand and everything. It's so good.
Honestly, Horseman, he can get it. I'm so sorry. I'm so tired.
Beryl's like, I want a rendition where Katrina seduces the Horseman. There we go.
Why did we
that
have
remake, Disney?
We had this whole thing where the Horseman was a girl, and that was supposed to be the hint that Christina was also the Horseman from way earlier on. But let's make the Horseman actually a girl. Yes.
That could be an interesting one. The Horseman they talk about. Actually, you actually get it in the prologue. Side note: I didn't know this was a German thing. So I was pronouncing it wrong, apparently. So the Horseman, and this is word for word almost from the original, he was a Hessian trooper in the Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay. I understand.
So the entire point is this ghost has been chilling since the Revolutionary War, and he is trying to find his head. So he's going from the chapel yard where he's buried to the battlefield every night to go find his head.
Is he ever gonna... I don't think he's gonna find his head.
I don't think so.
That man needs to give up after a certain period of time. Can he not get into heaven because he can't find his head?
That is something to think about with, ghost stories. That's actually something they comment on, is how sad must it be to be a ghost and be stuck on this plane for eternity. And I don't know. I feel like it would depend. The Horseman can wander around town. So I feel like I wouldn't be too upset. You could just fuck with people all the time.
Absolutely. I mean...
It's essentially what he does.
As long as you can fuck with people, being a ghost sounds pretty rad to me.
Yeah. If I'm stuck in one house forever, maybe not. Now I just want to reread The Ghost Cat. I might do that next.
Awesome.
It's one of those things where I don't know if I'd rather, be in an absolute nothingness forever. Because if you're conscious of being in the nothingness, that'd be terrible.
100%.
But would it also be worse to be conscious and on the plane of existence forever?
You can watch as much TV as you want.
That is fair.
You could go to the movies and not have to pay for a ticket, and you can watch new movies all the time.
That is valid. Isn't that a scene in Casper and the Friendly Ghost?
I think so.
Or read over people's shoulders, but I guess the big problem with that is what if they read too fast or too slow?
Maybe. Get one of those ghosts that can pick up things so that you can haunt a bookstore.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
You want to be a bookstore ghost?
Yes.
Let's go.
I just have to make sure someone murders me in a bookstore, and then I can haunt it forever.
And make sure the bookstore stays either a bookstore or gets, like, occasionally a TV.
And, if the bookstore's going out of business, just go rob a mall or something. What are they going to do? You're a ghost. Are they going to arrest you? They don't know you exist.
Absolutely.
There we go. We've got this. We've got the afterlife hacked.
The thing that secretly keeps the bookstore afloat is the ghost haunting the bank tellers, like the bank system.
There we go. There we go.
Where does all this money come from? I don't know, but it's here. They keep going back to the bank trying to be like, we keep getting money from you. And the bank's like, what do you mean? This is your money. We don't see where the problem is, because the bank teller is possessed by the ghost. And they're like, okay, I guess it's our money.
Your loan's secretly paid off.
Please. Hey, can a ghost go pay off my student loans, please?
That'd be nice. Go pay off my mortgage.
100%. Ugh.
So what did you think of my summary?
Good summary. Told both in broad strokes at the right times and in small strokes at the correct times. I'm not salty at all about homework. Not salty in the bit. For context, I was venting about my classmates not understanding the difference between summarizing something in small strokes versus broad strokes in our assignment before this. If you're one of my classmates and you're the one I'm complaining about, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry. If you're one of my classmates and you're listening to this, chances are you're not one of the people I'm complaining about, so I don't think you give a shit. You'd probably laugh with me, so.
Either that or they wouldn't recognize that that's who they're talking about.
I mean, my name's pretty unique.
Fair.
And I'm advertising it to my classmates.
Oh, hello classmates.
Hello, Beryl's classmates.
I guess I pitched this book really well because you don't have much to say.
No. Honestly, it just sounds like a good vibes Halloween time, which is what Sleepy Hollow is.
It encapsulates that vibe so much. So if you love Sleepy Hollow, go support Serena Valentino and go buy her book.
Let's go, Serena Valentino.
A book that's above 4 stars.
Yeah. Wait, what was your rating again? I forgot your rating.
I'm thinking in between 4.5 and 5, but not quite 5. Because it's not like life altering, but it is one I would recommend and would read multiple times.
So like a 4.8?
Yeah, maybe like that. Because it's not one where it's completely life-altering, but it is one where I'm like, dang, that made me want to go watch the movie. Or maybe reread this again every year. Gives me that spooky vibes. I was reading it, sipping a pumpkin spice latte.
Hell yeah. I mean, the fact that this is our first over 4.0 4-pointer is a major sign.
Side note, we might move this to the front of the episode. Thyme forgot our release schedule. So this is recorded after Sword Cross. That was supposed to be released around Halloween. But this is being released around Halloween, even though it is reviewed after Sword Cross.
Yeah, it's done out of order.
Because I forgot our release schedule.
That's okay. We make it work. I can edit
we make it work.
I'll teach you how to edit.
That concludes our review of Raising the Horseman. Beryl, what is our next episode?
Our next episode is going to be The Phoenix Keeper. Have a good night.